Welcome to my madness, ladies and gentlemen, and today I'd like to introduce myself to you as Matt, the Spider-Man simp. Yes, that's right, I am kind of a simp for Spider-Man. What I mean by that is, if it's Spider-Man related, I usually do my best to try and pick it up. I love Spider-Man a lot, one of my favorite characters ever, not just in comics, but just as a character. Love Peter Parker, love Spider-Man. So sometimes I buy stuff even when it's not really something that's up my alley, like this right here. This, of course, is the retro-carded animated Spider-Man, and I'm not a big fan of the cel-shaded look. I'm really not. I don't like it. I've not gotten any of the X-Men figures that have come out based on the animated series from the 90s, which, by the way, I love the animated series. Love the Spider-Man animated series, too. Just don't like when they put that shading on the figures, but it's Spider-Man, so I picked it up. I've got it here. Yeah, we're gonna crack this guy open because it's Spider-Man. So what else can I say? So let's go ahead, get right to it. Let's get this guy opened up and see what we've got inside. Alright, so we got him out of the package. We'll look at accessories here real quick. First, he does come with a couple extra hands. So he does have his wall crawling hands here, which, pretty standard stuff. Of course, he's got his thwip hands, which I always pose all my Spider-Man with thwip hands because it's Spider-Man. So, just makes sense. And of course, he's got his fisted hands that come on the figure itself. And then, of course, we get a couple of web effects. I believe these are the same web effects we got with the Japanese Spider-Man. The kind of thicker, whiter web effects instead of the kind of more clear looking ones. So, got those in. Now we got the figure itself, which is basically just the Amazing Fantasy 15 Spider-Man body with a different head and obviously different paint apps. And look, I'm not a fan of the cel-shaded stuff, but they did a good job with this. I mean, he does look really good, I mean, it's subtle. It's much more subtle on him than it is a lot of the X-Men figures, which has kind of bugged me on those. It's just like a little too much. And on this Spider-Man, you've got it under the arms there. You've got a couple of spots there on the legs. And then really, the stuff that you've got up here just kind of fits with the definition of the musculature more than anything else. It doesn't really stand out that much as cel shading. It just, honestly, this is probably the best cel-shaded Marvel Legends that I have seen. I mean, it looks really good. Head sculpt on this guy looks great. I love that head sculpt. I'm not sure if that's the same one. It almost looks very similar. I might do some comparisons here. It looks very similar to the Ben Reilly retro card that we got. I'm not sure if it's the same head or not, but it's pretty simple Spider-Man here. Colors look great, nice and bright. It pops. The cel shading doesn't annoy me, so that's good. And plus, if you wanted to, you could remove the cel shading. And one thing that I did notice about this one is on this one, if you look back here, he does not have the holes for the web wings like he does on the Amazing Fantasy 15 one, which is nice. I'm glad they got that taken off. But other than that, this is basically the Amazing Fantasy 15 one, which I think is a fantastic figure. I think it is the best buck we've had for Spider-Man, because Spider-Man is not supposed to be some big bodybuilder. He's just a regular guy. And, this looks great. I really do like it. Cel shading aside, this is a great looking figure. I really dig it. As far as articulation, not going to go over it. There's no need to, okay? This is a Spider-Man figure. It's got fantastic articulation, with the exception of he does not have toticulation, but that doesn't bother me that much, honestly. That's not a deal killer for me personally. I know for some people it is, but it wasn't for me with the Amazing Fantasy version of this buck, and it's certainly not with this. But other than that, you get the butterfly joints, and everything else is pretty standard articulation as far as double jointed knees and elbows and wrists and ankles and ball peg on the head. You do have the reverse ab crunch there with the upper torso joint, standard hips, standard thigh swivels, and bicep cuts. So standard stuff here for a Marvel Legend. And it looks really good. I mean, I'm biased, okay? I know that. I'm biased. I'm a huge Spider-Man fan, but this thing looks great. So, let's go ahead, throw him up with some other figures, and see how he stacks up. All right, so of course we got to compare them with some other Spider-Man figures. So we got a lot of Spider-Man figures here. These are, I think, some of the better ones. Some of them are new, some of them are older. Just kind of depends. But of course we got Japanese Spider-Man, which is a personal favorite of mine. We've got the PS4 Spider-Man. We've got Ultimate Spider-Man. We got Renew Your Vows. We've got the newest black suit symbiote Spider-Man. Of course we got Ben Reilly back there. We've got Amazing Fantasy 15, and then of course at the back we do have what used to be kind of the go-to, which of course is Pizza Spidey, which I still think is a great figure and holds up really well. And I like the fact that that version of Spider-Man is kind of a skinnier guy, which is kind of how Peter Parker is depicted in the comics, and much less of a bodybuilder like the Ben Reilly or the Renew Your Vows or even the PS4, where they're just really, really big and buff. You know, so I like that kind of slimmer look for Peter Parker. So I am really, really digging this new animated version. This is a really good buck for Spider-Man, for Peter Parker. I think it looks fantastic. The cell shading, as I said, is not overdone, so the blues and the reds still pop. I mean, it just looks like a good classic Spider-Man. And as I am looking at it here, I did say that I thought that the face on this one, the head sculpt on this one, was the same as the Ben Reilly version of Spider-Man. It is not. It is different. They're similar, probably more similar than any other two here, but not quite the same. So it does appear to be a new head sculpt from what I can tell. Now, I love all these figures. Pizza Spidey for a long time was my go-to favorite. I do like the Renew Your Vows. He's just a little too bulky for me. The Japanese Spider-Man is just a thing. I know a lot of people hate that figure. I love it. And then Ultimate Spidey right there, just Spider-Man as a kid, I think is one of the best Spider-Man figures we have ever gotten, period, hands down. It's the perfect depiction of Spider-Man as young Peter Parker as a kid. But ultimately, out of all these, you know, Amazing Fantasy, I've thought, has been the best version of Spider-Man we've gotten. That's just my personal opinion. But I gotta say, looking at all these guys together, I think this new animated version has topped Amazing Fantasy for me because of the classic colors and the classic logo. And not classic as in, obviously, Amazing Fantasy 15 came first, but just the more traditional look that we're all used to from Spider-Man for the last, 50 years or so. I gotta say, I mean, despite the cell shading there, this guy looks really, really good. So it's Spider-Man, so of course we've got to compare him with some Venoms, and this is just a few of the Venoms I have in my collection. So of course we've got Superior Venom, we've got the Venom from the Kingpin Build-A-Figure wave, we've got Monster Venom, and then we've got my personal favorite Venom of all time, and that is the Marvel Select Venom. Fantastic figure. Should do a whole separate review on that one. But anyway, I think he looks great with all of them. I mean, with the Superior Venom, they're very close to the same size. The, Kingpin Build-A-Figure wave Venom, he's a little bit bigger and bulkier, like you would see Venom when he first appeared in the comics back in the late 80s and early 90s, where he just kind of looked like Eddie Brock in the suit. And then if you want to pair him up with Monster Venom or the Marvel Select Venom to kind of give it that look sometimes we see in the comics where Venom is much more huge and monstrous, I think this Spider-Man looks great with all of these figures. And of course, because Spider-Man has the greatest rogues gallery in all of comics, as far as I'm concerned, you got to throw him up with some more villains. So of course, at the back, we've got the Kingpin Build-A-Figure, we've got the new retro-carded Rhino, we've got the old school Toy Biz Hobgoblin, which this thing is just monstrous looking. I love this figure. I mean, look at the paint apps and the detail on that thing. I know it's an older figure with less articulation, but damn, is that a great figure. And same thing for this Green Goblin. That is my personal favorite Green Goblin figure right there. Old school Toy Biz, just a great looking figure. But I mean, come on. This animated Spider-Man, even with this diverse cast of characters as far as villains go, from looking more monstrous and more dirty to looking a little cleaner to like the Rhino looking a little more animated, he just looks great with all these guys. Alright, so let's talk about price here real quick. And this guy retails, I think, for around $27, $28, if I remember correctly. I don't know, I pre-ordered it like 7 months ago, so I honestly don't remember what I paid for it. But it also is basically a Walmart exclusive, and that makes it kind of hard to find. But $27, $28, something like that. Is it worth retail? Yes, hands down, it's worth retail. As I'm sitting here kind of playing around with it, stacking it up with other figures, I mean, by the end of this, I can safely say I do like it better than the Amazing Fantasy 15 version of Spider-Man, which is on the same buck, but the paint apps on this, even with the cell shading, is so much more Spider-Man. And I think I like it better. I mean, I really do. And I thought that the Amazing Fantasy was just about the best Spider-Man we had gotten at this point, but I think this one kind of takes over for that one. It's a really, really great Spider-Man figure. I mean, it really is. Now, as I said, this thing can be kind of hard to find at Walmart or Walmart.com or whatever, so secondary market prices are getting kind of pricey. I've seen this thing going for 40 to 50 bucks, and at that price, I personally would pass. I mean, it's a fantastic figure. I love it. I just can't see myself shelling out that much money for this figure when I have so many other Spider-Man figures that are also really good. Maybe not this good, but still really good. So I would say try to shoot for that retail price. I mean, you know, even if you pick it up for 30 bucks plus a little bit of shipping, I'd say it's still worth it. But honestly, much more than that. And I can't see myself spending on it. So I can't really recommend somebody else do it either. So good figure, retail, hands down. Great deal, definitely worth getting. Too much more than that, it might be a pass. But either way, I love this figure. I'm glad I pre-ordered it. I'm glad it came in. Very happy with it. Like it much better than I thought I would, despite the cell shading. And would love to hear what you guys have to say about it. So if you got any comments about this, do you have it? Did you order it? Are you looking for it? If you've got it, what do you think of it? Would love to hear what you guys have to say in the comment section down below. So thank you guys for watching as always, and remember, always remember, enjoy your collection.